Snow fell gently over the small town of Black Hollow, wrapping it in a deceptive blanket of peace. Christmas lights flickered along empty streets, their cheerful glow reflecting off frozen sidewalks. The air smelled of pine, smoke from chimneys, and something colder, something wrong. Detective Eleanor Graves hated Christmas. She stood at the edge of the forest, her breath fogging the night as red and blue lights flashed behind her. The body lay just beyond the tree line, half buried in snow, arms arranged neatly across the chest as if in prayer. A crude wooden star had been carved into the victim's forehead. "Third one this week," Officer Miles said quietly beside her. "Always posed, always a symbol." Eleanor stared at the corpse. "And always on a holy night." The town church bells rang midnight. Black Hollow had once been known for its Christmas festival, carolers, markets, children laughing. But that was before the disappearances. Before the letters. The first had arrived 3 weeks earlier, handwritten and addressed to the police station. "He watches while you celebrate. He listens while you sing. And when the bells ring, he will choose another." It was signed with a single word, Shepherd. Eleanor returned home just before dawn. Her house was dark, silent, and cold. She removed her coat and noticed something resting on the kitchen table. A small wrapped gift. Her heart stopped. She hadn't decorated. She hadn't invited anyone. Slowly, she approached and unwrapped it. Inside was a tiny snow globe. When she shook it, artificial snow swirled around a miniature church. Carved into the base were words, "You still believe." She dropped it. The next victim was found on Christmas Eve. A young man dressed as Santa Claus, hanging from the bell tower of St. Mary's Church. Blood stained the white fur of the costume. His mouth was sewn shut with red thread. The crowd gathered before the police could stop them. Children screamed. Parents covered their eyes. Eleanor looked up at the body swaying gently in the winter wind. "This isn't random," she said. "This is a sermon." That night, Eleanor received another letter. Once, the town turned away from the light. "Now I bring judgment. You, detective, are my witness." She recognized the handwriting. It belonged to her father. Her father had been the pastor of St. Mary's Church. A man of faith. A man who had disappeared 15 years earlier after accusations of abuse surfaced within the congregation. The town buried the scandal. The church burned down weeks later in what was ruled an accident. Her father was never found. Eleanor had spent her life trying to forget him. Now he had returned. The final days before Christmas passed in terror. People locked their doors. Carolers vanished. The town canceled the festival. Eleanor followed the trail through old records, burned archives, forgotten basements beneath the ruins of the church. She found hidden tunnels, ritual symbols, names of children erased from files. And finally, a schedule. December 25th, midnight, one final name, her own. Snow fell harder on Christmas night. Eleanor entered the forest alone, following the bells ringing softly in the distance. She found the old church ruins illuminated by hundreds of candles. And there he stood, older, gaunt, eyes burning with madness. "My child," he said. "You came, you killed them," Eleanor said. "In God's name." He smiled. "In truth's name." He raised a knife shaped like a cross. The bells rang. They struggled beneath the falling snow, faith against fury, past against present. Eleanor fought not just for her life, but for every secret the town had buried. When it ended, the forest was silent again. The bells stopped. Christmas morning arrived in Black Hollow. The town woke to peace. But Eleanor knew the truth. Because some sins never die. And some nights are never silent. The snow continued to fall long after Christmas morning, soft and relentless, as if the sky itself was trying to bury what had happened beneath layers of white. The townspeople of Black Hollow told themselves it was over. They reopened their shops. They sang again. They smiled again. But sound, once broken, never truly returns to silence. Eleanor Graves sat alone in her living room, the lights off, the Christmas tree still standing in the corner. She hadn't had the strength to take it down. One of the ornaments lay shattered at its base, the glass reflecting her tired eyes back at her. Every time the wind passed through the trees outside, she heard bells. The official report stated that the killer had died in the forest, his body found frozen near the ruins of St. Mary's Church. Cause of death. Exposure. Case closed. But Eleanor knew better. There were things the report didn't mention. Things she had chosen not to write. Like the fact that when she left the forest that night, she heard footsteps behind her, slow, deliberate, that stopped the moment she turned around. Or the fact that the knife shaped like a cross was never recovered. 3 days later, another letter arrived at the station. No return address, no fingerprints, just a single line written in careful ink. Confession is only the beginning. The town council insisted it was a cruel joke. A copycat, someone seeking attention. Eleanor said nothing. She took the letter home and locked it in a drawer she rarely opened, the one that held old photographs of her father, his sermons, and a charred piece of wood taken from the ruins of the church all those years ago. That night, she dreamed of singing. A choir of children stood in the snow, their mouths open, no sound coming out. Blood trickled down their throats and froze before it reached the ground. Behind them, the church bells rang on their own. She woke screaming. On December 29th, a body was found outside town. A woman in her 60s, frozen in a kneeling position, hands clasped together in prayer. There were no wounds, no signs of struggle, only a message carved into the ice beneath her knees. She asked for forgiveness. Eleanor stared at the scene as dawn broke, the sky pale and empty. This wasn't rage, this wasn't punishment, this was ritual. She returned to the ruins alone that night, carrying a lantern and a gun she hoped she wouldn't need. Beneath the collapsed stone altar, she found something new, a trapdoor, recently disturbed. Below it, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. The air underground was warmer. Someone was still using this place. The walls were lined with pages torn from old Bibles, stitched together with red thread. Names covered the stone, dozens of them, some crossed out, some circled. At the very end of the tunnel, she found a small room. And a recording device. She pressed play. Her father's voice filled the chamber. My flock was taken from me. But faith does not die with fire. It waits, it watches, it chooses. The recording ended with the sound of bells. The next weeks blurred together. More bodies appeared, not daily, weekly, always careful, always symbolic, always quiet. The press called it the Silent Night Murders. Eleanor stopped sleeping. She stopped going home. She began to understand the pattern, not just who was chosen, but why. Every victim had been part of the original congregation. Everyone had signed documents that silenced accusations. Everyone had chosen peace over truth. Until now. On January 14th, Eleanor received a final message. This one wasn't written. It was whispered. She heard it through the police radio while sitting alone in her car, parked outside the station. Detective Graves, the voice said softly. The shepherd does not walk alone. The radio went dead. That night, Eleanor returned to her childhood home, the parsonage behind the old church grounds. It had been abandoned for years. As she pushed the door open, dust filled the air, but the room was warm. Candles burned. A chair sat in the center of the living room. And on the wall, written in ash, "You kept the greatest secret of all." Memories came rushing back. The locked doors, the closed meetings, the night she heard screaming beneath the church. She had been 12. She had known. Footsteps creaked behind her. "You see now," her father's voice said, or someone else's, wearing it like a mask. The silence protected us all. Eleanor turned, gun raised, tears freezing on her cheeks. "No," she said, "it destroyed us." The candles went out. The bells began to ring. The gunshot echoed through the house, louder than any bell. When the police arrived, they found Eleanor alone. No body, no blood, no footprints leading away, only the chair, and a note pinned to it. Every shepherd needs a successor. Black Hollow never recovered. The church ruins were sealed. The forest closed. People moved away. Christmas decorations stopped appearing in windows. And Eleanor Graves resigned from the force. She moved north, to a place where bells did not ring. Where snow fell without memory. Years later, on a quiet Christmas Eve, Eleanor sat alone in her new home. No tree, no lights, no sound. Then, softly, from somewhere far away, a bell rang. Once, and some nights are never silent. And as the snow continues to fall, Black Hollow fades into silence. No sirens, no prayers, no songs, only the soft creak of trees bending under the weight of winter, and the distant echo of something that once rang too often to ignore. They will say the story is finished, that the killer is gone, that the truth was finally buried beneath the snow. But stories like this do not end. They wait in the spaces between sound, in the moments just before sleep, in the breath you hold when the night feels too quiet. Because silence is never empty. It remembers. And when the bells ring again, when faith turns into fear, and memory becomes confession, someone will listen. Someone always does. So lock your doors, lower your voice, and if you hear a bell in the distance, don't answer it, because some nights are never silent. Thank you for listening. If this story kept you awake, if the silence felt a little heavier tonight, then you're not alone. For more dark stories, winter thrillers, and quiet nights that aren't as peaceful as they seem, make sure to subscribe and return when the snow falls again. Until next time, keep the lights low, the doors locked, and the silence close. Good night.